really strange. I mean, pause 5 Gyro is not strange. We've seen that before, but with a Wind Ranger on the 4 as well, it doesn't give you too much control. Like, you really lack AoE control here. On AG's side, with the Timbersaw off lane, it just doesn't keep people in. You need something to help the Timbersaw keep them in chakram, keep them in check, line up for the shots. And there's nothing yet. There is flex here. Like, you could run Wind Ranger mid, you could run Gyrocopter mid, still last pick of support. You could run Timbersaw mid if the matchup kind of works as well. So AG's keeping it really open, maybe a bit too open. I think that's a bit out there. I'm assuming we're just going to see a mid last pick. There is a lot of opportunities for Talon to ban out the rest of the Spirit Brothers, though. I'm surprised AG didn't take either the Ember or the Void Spirit, but with the Batrider ban, maybe they're running Timbersaw mid. They just want to kind of have that dominant position on mid. I think the first time we're seeing it recently for me was from JG, and he had a spectacular time running that. We've been seeing it pop out a couple of times since then. So if you do have that Tim mid, you can still get something on the offlane for Wami to kind of get some team fight going. But on the other hand, this is also a Wami special, Mike, so I'm not sure if you really want to give it to Azura.
That's what I was about to bring up, John. I mean, Wami, we've seen him on this Timber before, and he will just carry the game for you. He just sets a pace you can't really keep up with. The amount of pressure he applies with this Timbersaw is pretty insane, and he does play the hero pretty much on edge all the time. So I'd be very surprised if they did decide to throw it mid and give it to somebody else, unless Wami wanted to play it mid, but can't remember the last time we saw Wami on the mid Timber or just mid anything in general, so I highly doubt that. We'll see though. I mean, Talon, they are banning up mid heroes right now, so they do believe it is going to be the POS 3 Timber. Though I do agree with your sentiment, John. They are lacking so much control. I mean, you don't really even have a guaranteed stun. You've got Shackle, which, you know, if you don't really latch onto anything, it doesn't matter. And then you've got Homing Missile, which again is not guaranteed because you can always just delete the rocket. You can just hit it. So we'll see what they do go into this mid lane to try and fix things up. You saw the Void Spirit Ember both being removed, and I think both those options would have been kind of nice for AG. Anything else in your mind, John, that Army Geniuses could pick up here to maybe kind of sort out that team fight issue they're having?
Nothing with big team fight for me on the mid, but I don't know, Alina would be nice for some control. It's still not reliable control. I think they might actually be thinking about Timbersaw mid because they're expecting a Monkey King for Mikoto mid. So Timbersaw versus Monkey King, but that also isn't... I mean, a Monkey King still kind of wins out by just building Jingu. Sure, the Timbersaw can still rip him to shreds early on, but the Monkey King has a way of sustain and holding that lane, so I'm not sure. I think AG, again, might have overflexed just a bit, Mike. If they do want to go a bit left field, like Mars is still available, they go an Invoker instead. So it is our Wami, Timb, Invoker on mid for Azura, and we have seen his Invoker a couple of times. It is impactful, but it doesn't fix their issues. Sure, you've got Tornado, you've got EMP, you've got the Ice Wall to kind of slow them down. It's still not the hard control you're looking for, and it can make it a bit tough to just chain off all your spells. You've got a good buff for your Terrorblade now with Alacrity up. I just think this game is going to be a lot harder for AG just from lack of control. They do have a bit of a run and gun going, Mike. Like the Timbersaw up front can just get work done for Talon. Their best way of melting him is really the Ogre Magi and Lion, and maybe the Cinderbrew, as you mentioned, onto the Timbersaw. But once you have a Hood of Defiance, maybe even a Lotus Orb, Wami should be pretty fine. And we know how he loves to play that Timbersaw. He tends to be really aggressive, holds a lane down for a long time, comes out really farmed. So I think Talon has to be a bit careful about that.
I mean, I do like the Invoker in the sense that the EMP is going to be quite valuable here, right? Like Tornado EMP against heroes like Ogre, Lion, Brewmaster, all of which don't have the craziest mana pools. I think might put a bit of a struggle here for Talon, but now you have a Kunkka out on the board, and that's going to make things a little bit tougher for AG, or at least Azura in the mid lane, because Invoker versus Kunkka, not very fun for the Invoker. Sure, you're still going to have that great regen with the Quas, because you probably are going Quas Wex, but Mikoto should have absolutely no problem just dominating this mid lane with this hero. And we have seen Mikoto play Kunkka before many times, and he does tend to do a fantastic job. And it's a great way of slowing down the pace of AG, because they are going to be the ones that want to assert their dominance early on with this kind of draft. I think the Kunkka does put a bit of a spanner in the work, though, right? Like, it's against Kunkka, against Lion and Ogre, even the Brewmaster and Monkey King, it's very hard to keep up. Mind you, John, that does mean we are going to have a position 1 Monkey King, but I suppose we already knew that considering they did pick up the Hyde Lion. But I'll ask you the difficult question as we do go into game number 1 between AG and Talon. Who do you think has the better draft, Jonathan?
I think Talon has the better draft. I think they've got a solid set of heroes to come in. They've got great control coming out. They've got great team fight as well. They're going to have to pressure AG into buying early BKBs. I think that's the only way DB holds up in that matchup. Like, if he has a BKB, he doesn't need to worry about the Cyclone. He doesn't need to worry about magic damage. And he can just kind of hold his ground. For AG's side, I feel like with this kind of draft, you're going to have to hit some sort of mid-game timing, but it's not like your mid-game timing is overwhelmingly stronger than Talon's. Talon has that early game spike with a Kunkka. The Monkey King we've seen be active really early on, so I'm guessing Gabby might be willing to run around, join in his team once he gets an Echo Saber or some early pickup, and just use the information they have on hand to start setting up fights. AG, I mean, it feels like it's all in on the Terrorblade. There are ways to get some good damage out from your Gyrocopter support. I think the Ag Shard and the Veil of Discord is actually a really big spike for that hero, but I just feel like Talon's going to be ready. They're very durable with a Kunkka, and it's going to be really hard to just burst him down.
I do agree with you on that. We'll see how it does pan out, though. Again, Talon, they are yet to pick up a win throughout the Division 2 of the SCA DPC, so desperate times for Talon right now, but it's still a star-studded lineup here from this side, and we'll see if they can take out AG to pick up their first series win in Division 2. Of course, AG, though, again, every point does matter. They want to try and win this series if they can. And definitely not to be underestimated is Army Geniuses. We are going to have a 5-man smoke up already from Talon. Might be a very early team fight. They get some decent vision down early on. The lines have been drawn out, though, from AG, so perhaps they'll be the ones to try and assert their own dominance here. Talon. Looks like they're going to try and sneak up to that high ground of the triangle. No one there to break the smoke right now. Savarish, he might get caught out in this Gyrocopter. Hyde, he'll frontline for the team, but they're going to find nobody. Talon, they'll have the vision to see, or rather AG will have the vision over Talon on that triangle, but it should amount to nothing for Talon, as again they are kind of being watched right now by AG.
Yeah, it's a bit painful for Talon as well. Hyde does drop a sentry on the cliff, assuming that's where the board was, but he misses out on that ob, so you're always going to have that one bit of vision coming through here for AG to hold on. AG might still walk up, but it's a bit of a risky spot. There were lines drawn around, but Talon doesn't really have the time for a flank around onto the other side here.
Well, they certainly don't. So AG being able to surely just take 2 themselves, as KP going to fight Barish for a little bit. In fact, never mind, it is going to be a 3-for-1 trade. It's a nice little start there for Talon, for a gold boost for themselves, as we'll see the lanes break out now. A DB, he's going to meet KP in the triangle, so no lanes fight yet. They'll just fight in that dire side, as they are refusing to allow KP and Hyde to make their way over to that laning stage. Eventually will just make their way over now, as Hyde and KP, they're going to be against DB, and of course Varish on that POS 5 Gyrocopter. Talk to me about this lane, John. Are we concerned more so for AG or Talon?
I think it's a very even lane when you put it into perspective here, Mike. Like, you've got stuns coming through from AG. You've got 2 ranged heroes once Metamorphosis pop on DB, so it's not going to be really easy for KP to just constantly run up and harass him out. And you have to consider Reflection early on with the damage output of a Gyrocopter once you hit, say, level 2, level 3. With a Rocket Barrage up and running, it makes it really easy for you to chase someone down, to just get the damage off and be aggressive. So I think this can be an aggressive lane for AG. At the same time, for Talon, once they do have the Cinder Brew up and once Hyde is just willing to throw his spells out, it gets a lot harder for AG to trade. You mentioned it in draft, Mike. DB might just burn down to that Cinder Brew damage being spammed out by KP and Hyde igniting it. So there's a lot of ways for them to still keep that Terrorblade in check once they hit those level spikes.
And the likelihood is as well, KP probably will go for that early earn as well. So you're going to have that bonus magic damage coming in once KP does pick that up. So we'll have a look back at this bot lane later on as mid lane. You're going to have Azura against Makoto. We kind of talked about this in the draft, but it should not be the easiest lane in the world here for Azura. As you can see already in the CS board, Makoto having a great old time. Top of the board and already about 4 times the CS of this Invoker. So certainly not a great start here for Azura.
Yeah, it's a rough lane for the Invoker. Like, you're always going to be harassed out. With the Tidebringer, you can try to passively regen. You could maybe try to toss a Tornado Cold Snap out, but in the early levels, you're likely not to really do much to Mikato, except really just annoy him. Rune control is going to be a little bit more important for Mikato. We don't tend to see Invokers go for bottle, and in that sense, Mikado is always going to be able to spam his spells out, as the Invoker's not going to be wasting time jumping around. We will see Azura at least deny off one Water Rune, but he's going to miss out on some CS. Gives a lot more room to Mikado. So I think you've got to watch yourself in that matchup. As a non-bottle hero on the Invoker, you kind of want to just play with your lane as much as possible and use that opening when the opposite mid laner kind of goes for the bottle refills. You will have to watch for support rotations, though, as Mikado does have a lot of potential once a Lion comes in or even the Ogre Magic comes in to set up for the kill.
Absolutely, and of course the final lane we haven't discussed yet is going to be that top lane where you've got Gabby and Fly against Wobby and LYM. Wobby on that signature Timber, and we did briefly go over this during the drafting phase, but he is very dangerous on this hero. Of course, he is going to be against Gabby, which, yeah, it's not the easiest time against the Monkey King, but as you do get the levels up on Wobby, he's going to care less and less about the MK. And he has been keeping his distance quite nicely here on the Timber Saw. And Fly unable to really get in range to do anything towards the Timber, but now they'll try to make their play. Scabby looking for that Jingu Mastery proc, and is going to be able to get it, but won't go too much further. Just realizing he won't have the damage to deal with this level 2 reactive armor.
Yeah, I do appreciate what LYM's doing as well, just constantly running around on the back, harassing out Fly, ensuring the Ogre Magic can't just walk up, use some spells onto Wami for free. He does have the early win run as well, so even if Gabby goes in for the stun setup, if it's not coming from Fly, not much damage will come true. So I think for AG, this lane is a little bit more manageable. They've got a lot more angles to play with. It's a Wami special on the Timbersaw as well, and he's at level 3, so even if you do get that Fire Blast into Jingu, it's just not going to be enough to rip through a Timbersaw who has a lot of reactive armor to play with.
I do appreciate what they're doing though, right? Like, they're making sure Gabby does continuously proc the Jingu. And I think the idea is to just make sure Gabby is able to secure CS without Wami just denying creeps away. Because right now he is behind Wami. So Gabby just wanting that bonus damage and lifesteal to make sure he remains survivable and just gets that gold he needs. Things have been rather tough in the safe lane of the Dire so far. Still no first blood occurring across the map quite yet. Not really too much action either. I thought this bot lane would be very, very active between these two duos, but they both have been quite conservative thus far. And mind you, DB, of course, has popped the meta, so it's probably the worst time to try to make the play on the TB. Though I imagine once that metamorphosis is over, we might see KP and Hyde try to get a little bit aggressive and get those first earn charges on this Brewmaster. At least for now, though, KP is going to be sitting at 0.
Yeah, I think it's really good positioning coming through from Talon, though. Like, for AG, when the mate is popped, that's when they can get really aggressive. They've already got level 3 in Farish, so they've got the level 2 Rocket Barrage. There's a ton of damage in chasing just one hero down. Hyde could be that unlucky hero.
Yeah, he may be, DB. He'll get the refraction off as Hyde is going to try and run. Is still trying to run, but won't make it out as DB and Farish are able to secure first blood. And before anyone corrects me, I realize I said refraction instead of reflection. There you go, John. Correction made. Hyde will go down. First blood the way of Varish.
Yeah, it's that aggression we were talking about. And for a while, Talon was doing a good job spacing themselves away, standing near the creep wave, standing near to the camps to ensure there's no good angle for the Rocket Barrage. But DB just runs up, even without the metamorphosis. The reflection slow is enough to kind of just help you out. Yeah, I almost said it. It's a bit of a tongue twister, Mike. And, you know, me, English is... I don't speak English too well. Still, great first blood from AG, setting themselves up for a really strong start. We're already seeing Varish as well walk around to help secure some runes here.
Top rune. Makoto able to pick up a double damage. That's a big one. Is unable to close the gap there onto LYM to get the X off though. So LYM, he'll remain fine. Did you look at Makoto's CS, John? I mean, 45 and 7 in comparison to the 29 and 5 of Azura. And, I mean, with the DD up and with the level 7 up, you do either expect a rotation out from this Kunkka or a kill attempt onto Azura with that DD rune. We'll see which one comes first here for Makoto, but he is pushing out the wave, which does kind of indicate he wants to rotate. See what he does decide to do.
Yeah, it's a big spike for Mikado. He's got a lot of damage to play with. I think the best target would be to just jump DB. He does have his level 6 up. He's pocketing a skill point for the Sunder. So he's got some protection, but with the control and damage of Mikado, that might not be enough. And Mikado is down here already, just looking for the angle.
Gonna try and get DB. There's your Cinderbrew out. KP getting a nice slow off. Makoto, though, he is nowhere near DB to be able to get the X off. Realizes just no point, so he goes back into the mid lane where they are going to find Varish. This might be at least something for Makoto to be able to get. And with the gyrocopter, there's really no way out of this, surely. Makoto just has way too much right-click damage. But in the meantime, they are going to lose Gabby. So you found a POS 5 gyrocopter, but you lost your POS 1 Monkey King.
Yeah, and that trade really works out in AG's favor. Talon just hesitating on the bot, miss out on the opportunity to trade for the DB Terrorblade instead. And finding the gyrocopter is nice for a Kunkka. Sure, it's some added gold. It's not the same impact on the game. And I think you're going to be very pleased about that for AG, keeping Gabby in check. We talked about his lane for a while, Mike, but Gabby's had a bit of a slower lane, especially in comparison to DB. Sure, you could argue Wami's not getting as much gold as well. He doesn't need too much gold on the Timbersaw. So even if his farm's being sacrificed, as long as...
Oh, Gabby, he got shackled mid-air. Wami's going to move in to cut down the tree, and that'll be another kill onto the Monkey King. As now Fly, and he's just trapped up. Makoto's going to try and help out, but they've lost their Ogre, and now Makoto, he does not want to die right now. Oh, that's a great shackle, LYM. He buys himself a little bit of time, but it's not going to be quite enough. So Makoto, he gets something, but I mean, you lost so much at that top lane. 3 heroes going down across the map, and DB, he was there for that top tier 1 tower.
Yeah, they just make it work on the side of Army Geniuses. The aggression's lining up, even down bot. But KP.
KP lost all his mana, and you know what? The mana's not even the problem. Swami does pick up the kill onto the Brewmaster. So far, just nothing going right for the side of Talon.
Yeah, the only hero getting good gold in this game so far from Talon is Mikado, and we still haven't seen him get the big rotations off. They will go for the smoke play now. I think they've got a rough idea as to where DB's standing, so they need to find that Terrorblade kill. They need to keep that guy in check, ensure that he's not too far ahead of Gabby, so that he stays manageable in this game.
Oh, Torrent out first, DB. He's going to barely avoid it, but it may not matter because Makoto, he gets the X off into the boat setup. Fly is there with the follow-up stun if needed. They've got help coming in, but DB, he's so low, but not quite low enough. They haven't killed him off yet. Talon, they may miss out, and now the turnaround. AG's here. Azura, he'll get the EMP off, but they are just trying to retreat right now as KB's shown up along with Hyde. They want something for their time. They'll find Azura, but he's in the Ghost Walk now. They'll X him back. Sentry down. Azura, he's still alive, but eventually should drop as Gabby. He'll get to work, and Makoto able to take the kill onto the Kunkka. But boy, oh boy, John, it took them so much to find that Invoker kill, and they still miss out on DB.
Yeah, and it's a massive set of rotations as well here from Talon. They had to drag 4 heroes down to ensure the kill came out. It's a lot of time being given out to the side of AG after they split off. Like, Wami just takes control for bot lane, level 8 now on our Timbersaw, just cutting the waves. And this is the timing of the Tim. He's just unstoppable in the lane he holds down.
Wami won't dive to tier 2. Hyde sticking around because Makoto had rotated. He's going to TP to the tier 1 tower, and that's a nice X. Right back. Wami, he needs some help. Doesn't dodge the torrent though, but Earthspike is there to make sure they lock him down. Wami will eventually go. Another nice rotation out here from Makoto as he's able to pick up his 4th kill of the game. But they are going to have to rotate back to mid because DB is going to get started on that mid tier 1 tower.
Oh yeah, they pop the Metamorphosis. They've got the Siege Creep here on Army Genius' side, so the push should just be flowing in. Talon, this is where maybe some of that lack of team fight comes in. They don't have the best ways to hold outside of Mikado tossing the boat and X combination out. And after that, maybe the Wukongs on top could help, but Gabby's just not itemized enough to help do some damage there. So it looks like they'll have to just give away an early T1. That's going to open up the map here for AG, Mike, and allow them to really track Gabby down, to ensure the Monkey King doesn't get off to its big start it needs, and to ensure that KP's progression into his Ags is going to be severely slowing down as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, times are getting very tough here for Talon as they are going to slowly lose their jungle now. They'll just kind of be relegated to that dire triangle instead. But you're not really at a stage where Gabby's ready to farm the triangle. So you'd much rather not be there if you can avoid it for Talon. Not until he at least has the Maelstrom up, where he can confidently take down those ancient stacks. So I suppose you do have the vision advantage here with Gabby, so he can scout out before he starts farming his own jungle. But right now it is going to be occupied by DB and Varish. In fact, the mid lane Varish, he's going to be spotted out by Gabby, but he's just going to make his way out. AG, but they've got so many ways of cutting down trees here. Gabby, he just has to be so careful not to get caught with his pants down. So again, he will go back towards the safer camps of that jungle, but Varish, he is on the chase. He's keeping tabs on Gabby.
Yeah. They've got great wards here as well from AG's side. A nice cliff ward on that top jungle area to watch that small camp on low ground. And they just know where Gabby's trying to rotate. He's so starved out on the monkey, and he's just being dived under tier 2s. No one's around to help him out. They're all focusing on that bot tier 1. They're going to have to get some TPs in soon, because AG's got the numbers here by force.
You've got to be careful. He will barely avoid that chakram. I do appreciate what Varish is doing, just literally following Gabby across the map, giving the information over to Wami to just chase him down. And this is how you want to play the Timber. It's so strong at the moment. Nobody can really kill Wami off unless they commit as 5 to deal with the Timbersaw. So just being able to follow Gabby across the map is a very valuable play here for AG. And you can see it on the net worth board, because DB, he's still ahead of Gabby by a long shot.
It's very tough for Gabby to just hit his farm spikes. Talon, I think a lot of pressure is on Mikoto to really go around, look for some opportunities, but they're kind of playing passively here on Talon's side. Defensively farming up, playing the bot jungle while Gabby tries to take the safe farm up top. But it's just not amounting to much map efficiency right now. They are kind of keeping themselves in the game though. Less than 1k lead from AG, so it's not an overwhelming start for them. And Talon still has tools coming in. Mikoto has his fresh BKB here, Mike. Your Kunkka can definitely stand in the middle, start these fights, and just bait everyone in and use that spell immunity to turn things around.
Good, and he'll try now mid lane. Pushing in that wave here's Mikoto as he does move on to that tier 1 mid tower. DB, he's hanging around just in case they needed to join this team fight as the TB, and he does have that level 4 meta up. But Talon, they aren't going to commit all the way. They'll smoke instead and try to wrap around the long way, but Gabby is being stalked once again. This could be great timing for a smoke to make sure Gabby survives. They find some form of a hero kill as Varish has been caught out. It's not the greatest kill, but they can settle. In fact, never mind that, they were trying to chase down Wami. But he does TP out in time. So just a Gyrocopter pos 5 kill, but I suppose something is better than nothing right now for Talon.
It frees up the top jungle a bit, forces the Timbersaw back, so it's a lot safer now for Gabby to just hold that lane, and it's a free kill. You know, they didn't need to pop BKB and Mikoto. They still have that tool for the next team fight. They still have all their big spells. They might find more targets here if LYM's not careful.
Mikoto barely out of range to get the X off, but you've got KP chasing him down on the brew. Spirit Vessel up, but they are going to be unable to keep up with LYM as he continues playing around with them. And what a shackles to come out!
Oh,
he's caught the Kunkka and hide on the Lion, but there's not enough follow-up to kill off Mikoto yet. Instead, they'll go after KP. With that homing missile, they'll lock him down. LYM, he doesn't have the follow-up stun yet, but KP's dropping low. Primal Split is there in time. They'll turn back onto Wami now on the Timber, and they've got him. The kiting in and out from Talon does end up paying off, as now they even found the Wind Ranger. And LYM should eventually fall here to the side of Talon. There is no chance of survival. That's a very nice little play there from our Dire team.
Yeah, just a bit of overcommittal coming out from AG. They didn't have enough control to follow through in keeping KP from hitting that use of the Primal Split. So Talon starting to find a few bigger kills. You know, killing off Wami does help them set up and build up a lot more. And in all of these fights, they still haven't popped that BKB from Mikoto. So he still has the full 9-second charge. They can look to just kind of play this way. Hit and run, not really overcommit, hold on, you know, don't overextend. The long game, I think they're still very confident in their Monkey King hitting a mid-game spike in comparison to our terribly DB. He hasn't gone for anything defensive, Mike. He's going for the Manta style next, but without a BKB, I think you're just leaving yourself susceptible to the chain stuns that Talon does have on hand. They can just look to X, look to Torrent Boat, keep the Terrorblade down, prevent him from getting his Sunder off. I think DB's going to need that BKB sooner rather than later, and he is going to pick it up after the Manta. We'll see if he has enough time to really hit that farm spike.
Yeah, I mean, the Manta makes enough sense, right? Like, you get the dodge ability, you get to be able to farm a bit faster and keep all the lanes pushed out here as DB, and we're naturally once you have the BKB up, definitely you can start to really get involved here against Talon and not worry about those supports locked down. But now DB, he'll keep up the farm. No need to rush to do anything quite yet. I mean, Gabby is still pretty far behind DB in terms of farm, and in terms of the MKTB matchup, again, it's not the most fun for Gabby. You've at least got to wait out the BKB before you can really make the jump into the Terrorblade. Even if you have that Wukong's command up. But now, at the very least, Gabby, he just needs to catch up in farm, because he's 3k behind.
It's a lot more time Gabby needs to really hit his own spikes. But I think Talon's, again, doing a pretty good job in just keeping everything in check. No progression on tier 2s here from AG, so they don't have a clear shot towards Roshan as well. They are still getting some farm spikes. Azura's also working onto a BKB, but the pressure AG's applying on the top jungle, it's just great. You know, they've got the aggressive wards, they know where to play and scout out. Mikado off to a bit of a chase in the bot jungle, not much vision to play with here. Again, we still haven't seen him use this early BKB, so it's just kind of sitting there, and if you're playing a bit of a farming game, it can be slightly detrimental. You could have gone for something else that accelerates your farm, but so far I think they just want Mikado taking that riskier spot, standing up front, ensuring that if the rotations do come out, he is protected. And again, the stall game's kind of low.
He's going to tank the gank here, Varish. He knows exactly what he's doing. Varish is going to die, but DB was farming the left side of that dire jungle, so he just wants to make sure he breaks the gank before it does make its way over to DB. And again, the Gyrocopter not really doing anything right now anyway. You may as well just keep your carry protected as bot lane. Speaking of protecting your carries, Gabby is going to try to run and does make his pounce out. Power shot just off the mark in terms of the tree line there, and Gabby going to have just enough information on LYM to realize he needs to escape ASAP.
Yep. Good kind of use of distraction coming through from Talon. They're still wrapping around top. They're trying to pressure out DB. They are keeping him protected. They miss out on the kill opportunity, but they might be able to go for a push. I think you need to take some of these tier 1 towers out if you're Talon and want to play in that triangle. The mid tier 1 especially is just holding them off from really taking good control there. They plant a forward ward, spotting rotations. It looks like they might actually just commit for that objective now.
They may, but DB's going to TP in, ready to defend if he needs to. Kodo, he does have the Shadow Blade up though, so he might be able to initiate very nicely here, but we'll reveal it. And of course, it's very important for Army Geniuses not to let this tier 1 tower go down. DB, he is definitely not done with his own jungle yet. They are going to smoke up down to the bot lane. Gabby, he has found LYM, so a nice start for Talon, but now he needs to run. The smoke is coming fast, but Gabby will get into the tree line. Might be a little bit too late here for Wami to catch him, so instead, they'll go on to Hyde. Earth Spike is out, Sunstrike to come in, but Hyde will just die to the chakram of Wami. But again, you got Gabby out, so as Talon, you're pretty happy with that. No need to worry about Hyde dying. It's right back to farming here for Gabby.
Yeah, it's a good trade-off for them. They give the kill towards the Monkey King, so Gabby gains a lot more. Wami picking up the kill isn't as significant now for AG. He's already kind of hit his early item spikes with a Hood of Defiance and Yules. And Kai Sanchez is going to be really helpful, but it's just to kind of keep him up with scaling. I think for Talon right now, again, they've still got a lot of room to play with despite that early aggression from AG. Gabby's still building up. I believe his BKB's flying out as well here. So now the Monkey King's protected, and this could be the timing where Talon just stick together, look for a kill, use those 2 BKBs under big cores, and just run down AG. With the spell immunity up, AG's control is really severely limited in these team fights.
That it is, and they've smoked up as 4 now. Trying to get that surprise reveal on that BKB, but Varish is around to break the smoke, but instead they'll ignore him. They'll let Makoto deal with that Gyrocopter as they found LYM instead. Again, not the greatest target, but they'll take what they can get right now. They have found the Wind Ranger. In fact, Varish, he's still not within safety yet, but the boat, it doesn't land. In fact, Sunstrike's going to fly in onto Makoto. Varish is somehow still alive, but Gabby will finally get the job done. And with those 2 supports dropping Talon, they will be able to finally secure that tier 1 mid. Or will they? Rotations in. BKB up on DB, but it's all too late.
They managed to take the objective. This opens up the map a little bit more. They are forced to deny their tier 2 top. So they take away the gold, but that opens up the outpost here from AG if they do make a foray into that jungle and just kind of want to set up for the Roshan. Talon, they're still in a good position. I think the next item spike we have to wait for here is perhaps KP's Ags. He's going towards the Midas first. A bit of a latent Midas here, Mike, but it will ensure that he's going to get that steady flow of EXP, steady flow of gold to hit that Ags timing. Once you do have the Primal Split charges up, it should be a lot easier for Talon to, again, commit to these fights and look for deeper, bigger kills. DB's been very well protected from AG's end. He's been working this map to a near perfection in terms of just having efficiency up and running. It's going to be a lot harder for them to keep down the Terrorblade with the BKB up. I think they're going to have to try to kill off the supports again, maybe kill off the Invoker, and then look to isolate that Terrorblade, or if not, just isolate him entirely with a good gank out. But despite the vision game Talon has with the Monkey King, it's been really tough in just catching DB out alone.
Well, 5-man smoke, another BKB to come out this time for their Invoker, so Azura now very protected himself. They'll wrap around the long way into that dire junglers. Oh, Gabby, he's a great target. He jumps into the tree line, but OIM, he's already found it. And he has absolutely zero. In fact, never mind. He got the BKB off just in the nick of time. Gabby, he'll walk away with a slither of HP as now Makoto. He's going to jump in after Azura, but can't quite finish the job either as DB will rush forward, trying to get himself a target, but there's nobody left. So nobody dies. I thought for sure Gabby, he may go down. I didn't think he'd have enough time for the BKB to be popped, but he barely gets it off in time and just about walks away with 100 HP.
Yeah, that's massive for Talon. But AG, they re-smoked, so they're looking to sneak up. They know some of the BKBs were popped.
Meta's about to wear off. DB, he's got about 5 seconds for that, but they move in onto Gabby again. Fly, he is getting jumped right now by LYM, but in the meantime, DB, there's your meta gone now. Hide, Wukong's command down, they'll control the Terrorblade and DB. Oh, they mistimed the gank. That was a very confident attempt out from the side of Army Geniuses. It does not pay off, and now Gabby, he wants to go for a bit more. He won't quite find another target. They won't go into Roshan yet either, but they'll be happy with that team fight.
And that was, as you said, Mike, overconfidence from AG. I think charging in with DB first, it sent a message, but he just wasn't set up for that counter fight. They tried to get the control off onto Gabby. They didn't have enough burst damage to deal with a Monkey King. And when you do have the Alacrity running on your Terrorblade, it becomes really easy to identify the real one. So simple job for Hyde to just get the Hex, get the Earth Spike stuns, and burst down the Terrorblade. BKBs were still on cooldown when they ran up as well, so you weren't protected on DB's side. They do manage to find Gabby anyway.
Oh, Gabby in the tree line top lane is going to be caught out by LYM. Vrish, of course, will give the tip over. So I believe that was a power shot into the tree line to get the vision onto Gabby. It's just such a hard time for the Monkey King when you're against heroes like the Wind Ranger and like the Timber. You're just never really safe. Now the Roshan.
With that kill, yeah, Roche is open. They know the Monkey King can't just jump in. There is vision here from Talon, so they know where Roche is happening, but they're on the opposite side of the map right now. They can't really contest. They do have the spells to contest, but they're just not in position to. So first Roche going away of AG. That is going to give a secondary life out to DB. And LYM, again, just getting all the tips for all the work he's done. He's really managed to keep a good lock onto Gabby. And just finding that big kill for AG every single time sets them up for success. Talon, I mean, they've still got a long way to wait for KP's Ags up. They will smoke immediately after. They've got the spells running. They just need to find the angle.
Where do they find them? Down towards the south they go. Looks like Azura may get caught out. Hex is there as well. Hyde, he'll get the initiation. Makoto trying to get the damage off. With the turret control, they'll have enough. Nice gank there from Talon. For now, Army Genius is seeing their Invoker go down. They'll back off. But Talon, they might be able to set up for that bottom tier 2 now.
Yep. They've got all the heroes needed to get that push going. This will even out map control, allow them access to the outpost as well. And for the side of AG, without the Invoker, their teamfight just narrows down a huge amount. Like, we talked about that Invoker pick, Mike, providing them with Tornado, providing them with the Ice Wall to kind of slow things down. Without him, they really don't have too much AoE influence. You could maybe say Chakram, you could maybe say the Call Down. It's not quite the same impact, so... Talon even out map control, take an outpost, they have good control of the bot jungle, it's been well protected for a long time, with a lot of vision and commitment coming through from Talon, and they can just kind of play that slow game. Like, the Ags is eventually going to come out on KAP, they've almost got the full AC up in Mikado, he's got the Silver Edge as well, to do a ton of damage and just break off the Timbersaw. The side of AG has to be a bit cautious, they still are protected by the Aegis, Mike, they might consider going high ground. It can work, it's just Talon has pretty good defense with Wukong's up and the Boat and Torrent to play with.
Yeah, it's a very forced attempt here from Army Geniuses. I mean, they just get the creep wave and leave anyway, but they did run all the way up as 5 to make their way to that top lane, but well, in the end, they do not commit. They could still try to force a team fight with a smoke, because they do have plenty of time with that Aegis, but they might just wait another minute or two before they really try and commit. And it seems as though Talon, they are not afraid anyway. I mean, they are still pushing down bot lane. Perhaps trying to force AG back so they can force that fight that they want. But at the same time, you may as well wait for Gabby because he's about 1k off that Eye of Skadi now. So I don't think you really need to force the fight as Talon if you don't have to. You may as well just wait out the Aegis and wait at that Eye of Skadi time.
There's no rush. Again, their scaling's pretty good on Talon's side. The Terrorblade can still do a lot of good work in the matchup. And he does still have that significant lead on DB. Still about 4k above on that DB, although...
Varish will get caught out again. It looks bad from Varish, but he's doing the same thing. He's getting information for his team. That's really all that matters to the Gyrocopter at the moment. Just find out where Talon are because you trust DB to be able to outfarm Gabby and deal with him later on. And I think, again, the pos 5 Gyro, it doesn't really matter if he dies, as long as he gets that information. Why though? He's surrounded, but DB does Manta off the Cinder Brew as DB is trying to move forward. Wami will be there as well. But they will not find the jump they wanted. Talon, they were there to help out anyway.
Yeah, I think the big worry right now for AG, Mike, is sure your Terrorblade scales, but how about your Timbersaw? How about your Invoker? It's very hard for, especially Wami, to just throw his body forward. With the break mechanics on Talon, with the Spirit Vessel running, I think it just becomes an issue of solely relying on DB to really have all the scaling in the world to deal with the side of Talon. Whereas for Talon, you know, we've seen Kunkka late game, we've seen what happens when he gets his Ag's timing, gets the Ag shard up. Even if the damage output of Kunkka disappears, his control is still there. Brewmaster, after Ags, you tend to go refresh for KP, so you have to deal with 4 primal splits. That just completely breaks the game as well. I think for AG, despite having the Terrorblade scale better than the Monkey King, everything else around it just doesn't have that same scaling, and I think that's the big worry for Army Geniuses. Sure, you're getting a good time with DB, but you're giving Talon a chance to catch up on every other hero as well. Not just Gabby, but Mikado and KP as well, and their scaling is a lot better so far compared to our Timbersaw and Invoker.
It's kind of why I appreciate KP's Midas pickup. Most people would look at that and not really understand why you'd bother, but I think for KP, not only is it the gold, but he understands how important it is for this Brewmaster to keep leveling up, as those Brewmaster talents are some of the best in the game. So KP just wants to hit that level 25 mark and get all those talents up. As AG though, they've smoked up. Into the dive triangle they go, but they've already lost that Aegis on DB now. Not able to find the full value they were looking for. And instead they'll just hold this high ground. But the thing is, Talon, they know exactly where they are now. They can just go to the opposite end of the map and hold the other jungle instead.
Yep, and they're just having a great time. They've got the entire bot jungle to themselves. They're not under pressure to get rotations out. Until AG decides to push a tower, I don't think Talon's going to leave that area at all. I think maybe someone comes in to defend top as it's naturally shoved in just a little bit more, but you can kind of just play with X and TP back, so it's not a massive issue in clearing out one side camp. Looks like they will send KP to get that done. He is X'd back, so it's not going to be an issue. They can just keep playing together as 5. There's no opportunity for AG to look for that solo pickoff because Talon's just avoiding them entirely.
Yeah, but now they can go for the tier 3, John. They know KP has no TP up now, so you're going to be missing one hero unless you have a smoke up, but it doesn't seem like they do, so Makoto, he'll be there to try and defend by himself and allow the time for the rest of his team to make their way over, but it's not going to be that easy. Not with DB with this metamorphosis, just getting to work, but Hyde, he'll jump in. They jump in with Gabby as well. Wukong's command down. He is getting blown up. DB needs some help right here, right now, but he won't get it. In fact, LYM and Barish both being deleted by Makoto, and now they found Wami. So Brewmaster or not, it just didn't matter because AG, they stuck around too long, and Talon were able to buy enough time to bring everyone over. Mind you, they still got the tier 3 tower, but that's about all they got.
Step lively now.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult for AG because they had to frontline with DB. They couldn't put Wami all the way up forward, and that meant once they get the initial stun, just chain stun, Terrorblade, no chance for the BKB to come out, and just gets pinned down. Bad news for AEG as Talon now really have control in this game, 9-19. They're still getting a chase off up top as well.
Zura forced the BKB up to try and get out of there, and he will be fine. That'll be your BKB down now, and Talon, they may perhaps try and force another fight, or at least get these top towers, knowing that they are lacking at least one BKB on the side of Army Geniuses. Not to mention DB is still gone for another 10 seconds. And even when he is up, it's a minute until he has that metamorphosis. Up until then, he's practically useless. They will get the top tier 1. Do they bother for another? Not quite. They may just wait out the next Roshan instead.
Yeah. It's going to be really good timing here for Talon as well. They've got the DD bottled up in Mikado, so if it's an early timer, well, they're going to have a good time in the Roach Pit. And now they just take control of a different part of the map. Hold the triangle, keep farming up as a team, keep sticking together, playing together. AG, it really does feel like they have that early timing, but they haven't been able to capitalize as much. So I want to see what else they can go for in terms of itemization. I think Wami has been stuck with the Yule, Sky Assange, and Hood of Defiance for a while. He does have 2k in the bank. A Lotus Orb could help them out in maybe saving off DB. At least having a Dispel on hand could maybe break the chain stunts and provide DB that opening to use his BKB. Because despite all the fights, Mike, DB's BKB is still at 8 seconds. Talon's just been on point and jumping in first, keeping the control on that one big win condition. And once he's taken out, the follow-up fight for AG is just not quite there yet.
You've got to give props to Hyde for that, because he's always in with the great initiation on that Lion. Never allowing DB to be able to get that BKB off in time, and it's just such a hard game when you're against a good Lion player like Hyde. It's Talon slowly starting to move their way over to that top lane again. Gabby's already gotten started on that tier 2 top tower. Get Army Geniuses, they should be able to fight. They do have all their spells and items up, but I doubt they're feeling too confident about it right now, as they are 8k net worth behind all of a sudden. Problem is though, you are losing position for the next Roshan. Here for the side of Army Geniuses. They'll get a bottom tier 2 tower for their trouble, but Roshan is up in 5 seconds.
And that's going to be massive. That's going to set up for the high ground attempt on either side. AG need to be in position to contest that Roche. They do have wards watching the pit area at the least. So they can tell when Talon does decide to dip in. And that should give them a signal as to what's going on. They've also got the Sunstrike, the Scout, so they're aware Roche is going to be taken. The question now is, how do you initiate? Because, again, outside of your Terrorblade, you need to find a way of angling for Wami. You need to make their way fast as... Talon's kind of ready for this fight.
I'll tell you what, John, I don't know how they're going to do it, but they've got to do it. It's Varish, he'll frontline it from Hyde. He's there again with the Hex out. They'll force-start Varish back. Makoto, a big swing of the sword, doing so much damage to the side of AG as now the boat flies in. He's got 2 targets. Varish, he might get bursted right off the bat, and he does. But Talon, very clean start for this fight so far. In the backside, Makoto, he does pop his BKB. That's 1 BKB down for Talon. Army Genius is still very patient with their initiation, as they have brought back and they will smoke up. They did smoke under vision though, so Talon are very well aware and they've smoked on their own side of things now. There's LYM just giving vision in the Roshan pit. Talon, they won't go back for it yet, they'll hold on. Problem problem is LYM, he can just continuously check with that power shot every few seconds. Talon, they've got to decide whether they want to commit or not. They are slowly moving up to try and catch somebody up, but Army Geniuses, they've kind of backed off here. Sunstrike will give all the information over. Talon, they are still taking their time. In the meantime, though, Barish, he's been slowed up again. He just fought back. You really don't want to lose your gyrocopter like this, but he has no choice in the matter as he will go down. Another great start for Talon. Because now it's a guaranteed 4v5 scenario. And I don't think that AG can fight this any longer. They might try though. Wami, he'll jump in with the BKB out. It's all too early, but DB, he might just force the Roshan with the meta pop. He's going to try. Talon, though, got to start the fight. There goes LYM already. He'll buy back. Gabby in the Wukongs, trying to survive. DB, though, going for the man fight. Gabby, can you get a ton? DB getting bashed by Roshan, and now the fight flies in. Makoto gets a ton. DB's gone. Roshan so darn low. They can't get their Army Geniuses. They'll lose everything. Gabby, he understands how far they can take it. In fact, Wami did grab the Aegis somehow. So you got one little victory there for AG. In fact, how did he get the Aegis, John?
Just managed to swing in. A good Gale Force out from LYM held him off long enough for him to snatch it away. So they don't lose everything on AG's side, but they still don't really win out. The bash is coming through onto DB from Roshan, of all people, just kind of ruined them. And of course, you've already got the Ags up and running on KP, so split form was up and running. He's managed to take control in that fight. They don't have the protection of Aegis, but they know even if that Terrorblade spawns up, he does not have Metamorphosis for a while. His damage output's going to be way less, and Talon just are in a good position to kind of pressure the high ground if they want. No outer towers left for AG, Mike. 9-24, 19k lead for Talon. Despite that slower start, they managed to hold on long enough, give Gabby, KP, and Mikado all the farm they need, and they're just set to kind of maybe sneak away with this game.
You've got the Torrent Storm now up on Makoto as well, John. He is 27.5k net worth on this Kunkka. Just well and truly ahead of anyone else on the map. So this next team fight, once those BKBs wear off, Makoto, he's going to be a real nuisance.
Step lively now.
At least for now, though, Talon, they'll respect the high ground defense of Army Geniuses, and they'll back off. They understand they have a massive lead right now. There is just no need to push the game any faster than it has to go. At least for the side of Talon and Army Geniuses, they're the ones that might need to start get aggressive and find a way back into this game number one. But Talon, they should be sitting very pretty at least for the next few minutes.
Yeah, they've got a pretty big window where they're really strong. They can use this time to just further itemize. Refresh for KP is the next big one, Mike. And again, at that point, I don't know if you can even stop the Brewmaster from just splitting every single time. They just don't have enough control to keep KP down. They don't have the burst to take care of him as well before that split comes in and the Brewlings just start causing havoc. I think your best bet now in AG is really your use of EMP. If Azura can drain them of all their mana, you don't have to worry about the spells, and that will keep Talon in check. But that's a lot harder to do when you don't have setup here.
That it is. This kind of goes back to the fact that AG, they don't really have team fight. And they've got a little bit with the Invoker, they've got a stun here and there, but nothing's guaranteed here for AG. It's just proving to be very hard to lock anybody down now as they move back in to that mid lane. But it's just Makoto being a bit of a nuisance with that X-Back. He did have a DD rune active, so he's just getting a tiny bit of chip damage onto that tier 3 tower. And speaking of chip damage, DB's doing the exact same thing down at bot lane. And that is going to force Fly to rotate back on that Ogre. Make sure it does remain defended. But the net worth graph, John, it just continues to go the way of Talon. AG, they need to get something done here to try and switch this all around. No smoke. Maybe that's the game plan, just try to find a pick-off or two and kind of go from there, but well, they've kind of smoked near nobody. No targets around for them to find. They will see Hyde mana draining the creeps, but so See if they can catch him. He is smoked up. In fact, the rest of the team now smoked up behind Hyde. A bit of a bait play from our Lion. As KB will even show himself now with the Midas. Moving up to that high ground. Wommy, he'll be there. BKB popped immediately. KB, he's going to be fine for the primal split. DB, he's popped the meta straight off the bat, but now the Hex out. Hyde again. He's caught the Terrorblade. But where's your damage output? It's not going to be there yet. They cyclone him up. Meanwhile, on the backside, Gabby, he'll get to work. Marishan OIM already gone, and now Wommy will drop. It's DB left. It's him against the world, but his BKB is about to wear off as he tries to run with the invis, but no. Hyde again with the control out, and Gabby gets an ultra kill for the side of Talon. His Army Geniuses, they get absolutely zero, John.
Yeah, AG, they tried to smoke out. They were trying to get some counter wards in, I think, on that triangle area in the end. But it just comes down to timing. Like, you've allowed Talon to build up on all of these cores that scale well, and you only have the Terrorblade that scales up with you. Like, the Invoker, sure, it's got the items up. Sure, the Ags is there. Where's the setup for Cataclysm? It's not really there. You know, you don't have any way of having Wommy stand up front anymore with the break mechanics on hand, with the Spirit Vessel on hand as well, so you don't really have the best frontliner, and you just don't have teamfight on AG outside of your Invoker. So Talon make great use of that, as you pointed out, Mike. Hyde, time and time again, just isolating out our Terrorblade, and even KP as well, just running up, having the confidence with that Aeon Disc up, to always get the split off. And again, it's that Cyclone. You Cyclone out TB, you kill off the rest of his team, even if he lands back with BKB. It's one man against the world, and that's just not enough to deal with Talon at the moment.
And they may just commit, John, for Megas, because you haven't got Metamorphosis up now. DB's got no meta, so there's just no way he can fight into Gabby. Primal Split is there from KP, and we've seen this before. You could just hold everyone else back and not allow them to get close enough to try and defend, but OIM, he'll move in. Shackles does not latch, though. Very, very hard defense to make now as the Wukongs has been committed. KP again just being such a nuisance in the backside. And Talon, they'll get what they came for. They've got the Megas up. Can they at least find one pickoff? They may get Fly with the Tornado to connect, but that is not a great one. Fly will happily die to allow the rest of his team to back off. And Megas are officially up for Talon.
Yeah, this gets to be a really hard game now for Army Geniuses. They do have some form of a wave clear, especially with their Timbersaw. But again, the issue is finding a fight to win out, to transition to an objective, to transition onto the enemy high ground. It's just not quite there. We were seeing some great shackles from LYM. We were seeing some great uses of Gale Force, but the Wind Ranger can only do so much. It's really down to Azura and down to Wommy and even Varish to an extent to get some slows, get some damage up in the middle of a team fight, and for Talon to maybe misstep for AG to find that punishment to come through.
Yeah, John, I'd hate to be the bearer of bad news for any AG fans, but KP's got a refresher orb up now. So, he's basically got unlimited charges of the Primal Split. That's going to be somewhat problematic. I mean, he's already a pretty big nuisance in these fights, let alone with one charge. But he's going to have so many charges available of that Brewmaster Split, and well, he's yet to hit level 25 as well, so things are only going to get worse. Army Geniuses maybe just need one good team fight to go their way, but John, how do you do it? I mean, 30k behind. It's really hard to imagine them getting any kind of fight to go their way.
I think their best bet is really just getting good shackles off, finding a single target to kill, and just kind of rinse and repeat. I don't think they can take any of these team fights. Even with the Ags on Azure, we saw them try to play with that Cataclysm combination. It's just not enough. And on the big targets that might get bursted down with that, I mean, KP already has Aeon Disc, right? He had it in the last fight, so you really don't have too much to worry about here on Talon's end. AG, if they find a good pickoff, they could stall this game out. Try to keep building up. Maybe hitting Ags timing on E, that could help.
Almost found Hyde, but Hyde again able to get out of there, at least for now. Oh, this Lion's just being so annoying here for Army Geniuses. John just blinks up to the high ground, takes the ward out, 4-star back down, and just walks away. They can't stop him. In fact, I love the fact that Hyde got lucky enough to get the ninja gear, so he's constantly smoked as well. And it just makes it that much more difficult to be able to pick off this Lion before the team fight really starts.
Yeah, they just can't take care of the big initiation coming through from Talon on AG's side. And they're just kind of constrained now onto their high ground. Like, Roche is up and running. Talon's got control of the triangle. There is maybe a ward watching, and they've always got the Sunstrike to play with. But once you secure this Roche number 3 here for Talon, it's got the refresh up and running. You can have double use of the Torrent Storm, double use of the Ghost Ship Fleet. I don't think you need to pass it on to KP because he's got his refresh. It simplifies the high ground for Talon. This should be the opening they need to maybe look for that last fight. AG, I don't know if they can actually afford to give this one away, but they can't really fight in it as well. So maybe they'll play safe, hold back, allow the Aegis and Refresh and Cheese to go out onto Talon and just maybe look for an angle on the high ground defense here.
Now we've got a Refresh shard available for Gabby as well. I mean, he probably will just hold on to it because double Wukongs when you're taking down an Ancient is just so valuable. See if he passes it off. You could maybe give it to Makoto and have double Torrent Storm, double Boat, but at least for now they are going to hold out. They'll give Gabby the Refresher shard and let him hold on to it as they do move their way in. Nice scan out from Talon. They will catch a couple in that scan, but they won't move up to that high ground. Instead, Talon moving into that Radiant base. They only have their eyes set on that Ancient. And KB, of course, he'll Primal Split with the Aghanim Scepter up now, moving into that tier 4 tower. It's going to be very hard to try and defend this. They've got to try. Still DB already flying mid-air. Just can't do anything for his team. It's Wami. He'll get stunned up. He's trying to beat KB, but it may not matter. In fact, he's gone. Gabby just takes him out so darn fast. Now they move in for more. DB, he's already popped the meta. Metamorphosis is not available though. KP again, he'll go for a Primal Split out. Cataclysm's there, but they've called the GG. AG, they have no way to defend this. Talon are just way too far ahead. And they will be able to pick up game 1 of this best of 3 series.
Yep. It's a great start for Talon. It looked like a bit of a slower start to game for them. We were seeing some big plays coming out from AG. I think LOM really stood out with a shackle plays, with just hunting down Gabby. But the issue for AG was they just couldn't scale towards late game. We talked about it from the drafting phase, Mike. Their lineup just didn't really have team fight. It went all in on having this big core matchup with DB versus Gabby, but eventually Gabby just had way more space towards the last half of the game. Just managed to overwhelm him. I think AG's got to be careful about drafting around like this. Like, sure, you got the Wami special. You got the Timbersaw, you got DB's Terrorblade up, you got Azura's Invoker, but there was no real synergy there. There was just no way for them to fight, to take control, to stop KP from getting the splits off. And once Hyde has his blink, it was very, very easy for Talon to just jump in with KP and Hyde, isolate Terrorblade, kill the rest of the team, and just kill him off after, even with a BKB up.
Yeah, very impressive performance here from Talon. I mean, considering how bad the laning stage went, at least for Gabby, the fact that he was able to catch up and overtake DB in the end, just spectacular here from Talon. But that is only game 1. Of course, we are going to go head off to a short break, and right after that break, we'll be back with game 2 between Army Geniuses and Talon. But before we do get to a break, John, I'm just going to go ahead and play everyone's favorite ad, the Mate Mate ad everyone's been loving. We'll see you all again in about 10 minutes.